revival, I shoot it to kill it. I'm aiming for vitals, I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they're getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Yeah, by any means. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset.
Just 2 races are left in the 2022 Season 1 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. It's been a season dominated by Powerslide Motorsports, with 10 races leading to 9 victories and 5 drivers standing atop the championship standings. With the real-world NTT IndyCar Series ready to get underway in the Sunshine State, we follow suit and head to the Sebring International Raceway for a test over the bumps here in the Sunshine State. Hello everyone, and welcome back to RaceSpotTV and continued coverage on a Monday night of IndyCars. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside, as always, by my Powerslide Motorsports teammate Andrew Kinsella. And you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to racespot.wtf/Indy. And what a season it's been so far, Andrew. I mean, short ovals, road courses, street courses, and super speedways. That's what IndyCar is all about. But 35 laps here at a track where the real-world teams come to validate themselves leading into that first race weekend of the season on a street course. It's so much fun, and I can't wait to get underway here.
Absolutely, Arjuna. When you think of classic American tracks, Sebring has got to be up there. As you mentioned, it is the test track for most IndyCar teams, but it's also home to one of the most famous races in North America in the 12 Hours of Sebring, which has been going on for decades now. So this should be a treat of a race to watch between all of the drivers here. We have some old favorites, and then we are also getting some new drivers in, testing the waters in this series, maybe for a run next year. So I think we might even be getting to see a look towards the future here as well today.
Remember, 1 more week to go. 7 days from now, we'll head to the Tricky Triangle to close out the season, but at least for now, it is focused on Sebring. It is focused on surviving and in a two-stop race, 35 laps, making sure that you understand what is required from the strategy that will be played out here today. Let's take a quick look at the championship standings. And like I said, Powerslide Motorsports, 9 wins in 10 races on the Monday night. 5 drivers leading the way for them, but Brian Carey, the one under fire to try and assert the Powerslide dominance. He'll be missing tonight's action with some technical issues. Rashad Craig, Will Lyon, will they look to try and leapfrog? And you mentioned those up-and-comers, the ones who are newer to the community, but still always seem to have a turn of speed. Will Lyon is really the breakout star of these past two odd months here, Andrew.
Absolutely. Will Lyon has really shown a lot of speed in the past 2 months, especially on the road courses, but he's also been coming into his own on oval tracks as well. And it's just been a treat to watch some of this new blood come in and really start to make a mark on the IndyCar community, because it's always good to have new blood, new competition, and be on the lookout for new drivers, because that's what keeps racing fresh and what keeps the big teams on their toes, and it's what motivates you to keep going. So it's great to see a driver like Will Lyon really step it up here.
Andrew Marquez will be missing today. Of course, think back to his pole position at Richmond a couple of weeks back. The race may not have gone his way, but he's another driver that's been making leaps and bounds forward. We'll see him as well in about a week and a half's time when the Lionheart IndyCar Series gets underway here live on RaceSpotTV on Wednesday. Join us at 10 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Pacific for all of that. Let's talk, though, about this track. You mentioned the 12 hours of Sebring. That very much is the main focal point of this track, but now it's a super weekend. It's not just IMSA and the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship that comes here. The World Endurance Championship visits that very same weekend for their own race, and it always means a celebration of sports cars, but it's relatively flat. When I say relatively, it's basically flat. Built on an airfield like many tracks have been in the UK, but this one is known for the bumps, and that's where the hashtag #RespectTheBumps comes from.
Yeah, I hate to describe it as flat, because those bumps really do make it seem like it's not very flat when you're going around it. There are certain corners that are very flat, very little camber to them, but this track surface is so old, and there are grooves and there are bumps, and it's almost worn away in parts of the track where it's introduced camber where there maybe wasn't before. So it's really a track that has a lot of different corners, a lot of different corner types. You have heavy braking, you have long, fast sweepers, and you really have to be a master of your car in all different situations. So it's going to take a lot of skill here to navigate this track, and the bumps just make it trickier to keep that car under you for all of the laps that we have here today.
Just over about 6 odd kilometers, under 4 miles, 17 turns. Of course, the most famous of them, Sunset Bend, that very last corner. You got a multitude of different lines that can be taken, but like we were saying, nursing the tires might prove to be vital here today on what is a relatively cloudy day in the Sunshine State. Now, we do tend to see a bit of variance in the track conditions that we see. Now we'll take a look at how things are looking, as just over 60 seconds is left in qualifying. Drivers have basically all set their qualifying lap times. The grid has been determined, but 27 degrees in the air, 36 down on the track because of that cloud cover that's not really allowing the track surface to be baked in. What I'm looking at, though, Andrew, is that 16, 17 kilometer gusts of wind. Always difficult for drivers to try and understand how the winds are developing over the course of the race.
Yeah, and especially at a track like Sebring where you do get the bumps, those gusts will really come into effect. You even see it dipping up to even 25 kilometers an hour. So this is a very strong wind that we have here today. So I definitely think that it's going to catch a number of drivers out here today, particularly as the wind sort of will tend to change direction as the race goes on, and just the wrong gust at the wrong point can definitely catch out even the best of drivers here.
So time expires in qualifying. A 2-stop race on the horizon, so it's not just about the pit strategy. It's going to be about trying to make sure, the tire strategy, I should say, excuse me, but it will also be about how you elect to try and split up your stints down on towards pit lane. With that said, though, it's time for round 11 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship to get underway. We're live in the Sunshine State. Let's run you down the starting grid here today. And it's an all-Adam front row, but it's the Canadian Adam Crane that puts it on pole, a 39.880, just under a tenth slower. Adam Blocker, the defending champion and the championship leader, will roll off on the outside of row number 1. Rashad Craig, Danilo Piazza, row 2, while David Porcelli and Will Lyons share row number 3 with themselves. Watch out for that orange and blue machine to be a rocket ship in the early stages of this race. Christian Macarelli is in 7th, with Isaac Snyder in the Vector by RSR green and black machine in 8th. Hayata Matsuda and Fabio Ciamballa complete the top 10. Nico Yarva and Antonio Gagliasso just outside on row number 6 of the top 10, with Jan Dirks and Gonzalo Romero 13th and 14th. Trevor Greenfield and David Graybield, the final cars to have set a qualifying lap time. And there's a lot of work to do for Alexander Van der Sant. No time set for him. Both of his laps were invalidated. He's going to have to carve his way up through the field to try and work himself back to the front. And it has been announced that next season, the iRacing build, only a couple of weeks away now, will get the requirement for drivers to use both the primary black mark tire and the red mark alternate tire, but that's not in play today. What is in play today, Andrew, is the fact that you have to start on the tire that you qualified on.
Yes, and what an exciting development that is, I must say, Arjun. It's going to throw a real wrench into a lot of strategies here. The things that these drivers have been doing all season long. Next season, it's going to be out the window because you're going to need to deal with 2 different tire compounds. But here today, I think that what you'll see is most drivers, I think, will be sticking with those red tires. The red and the blacks are fairly even here, but we do suspect that this will be a 2-stop strategy, not a 1-stop strategy. So I think that with the shorter stints that'll bring, it'll probably be a red, red, red. There might be a few people switching onto the blacks for maybe a long and then a short run at the end, just to try and get into some different traffic situations. But it's going to be definitely an interesting strategy battle in terms of exactly when these stops happen, because the fact that it is a 2-stop strategy makes the pit window very, very wide here.
Now, if the race was a lap or 2 shorter, we might have actually seen just a lap shorter, I should say. We might have seen a couple of drivers try and do some fuel saving, but you also have to factor in the fact that we've got a full pace lap here. It's a long old lap, and even if you bump this car down into map 8 and try and save some fuel, you are going to burn a little bit. So maybe see cars either going a little bit more aggressive in stint number 1 with less fuel saving required, or just being a bit more tentative to try and hit the constant fuel number over the course of these races. Now, because it is mostly cloudy, I do think you're right. We are likely to see the red marked primary tires, alternate tires, excuse me, be the preferred choice. Would not be surprised given the way that tire falls off, though. Slightly softer in nature, faster initially, but wears just that little bit quicker. If we see drivers elect to be a little bit more brave and try something different. Now, when it comes to passing here, Andrew, the reality is every corner is a passing opportunity. If someone makes a mistake out of that hairpin, for example, running yourself down into Cunningham, you can try and get to the inside or even go the long way around on the outside. But it's a track where you are going to have to be patient and wait for the opportunities to present themselves.
Yeah, patience really is a virtue, but at the same time, one of the things that this track is very good for is being able to put pressure on the driver in front of you. These long braking zones, you can really sort of manipulate your car a little bit, stick your nose in there, even if you're not necessarily making the move. It's a really good place where you can just put pressure on the driver in front of you, and it's so easy to make a mistake across these bumps, as we've already talked about here today. So I think that that's one of the strategies that is going to be employed, particularly probably at the front of the race, given how close Adam Blocker and Adam Crane were in qualifying. I think that this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight between the two of them throughout this race here today.
So I was going to ask you another question, but I'll start with this first question. Is it going to be like Motegi? Are we going to see contact between the two of them again?
Certainly there's no love lost between the two of them, and I think it'll all depend on who gets out in front in that first corner, and I'm not going to say who I think is going to at this point, because it really is a toss-up, but I think that it's probably going to get physical at some point, but hopefully both of these drivers will be running at the end and will be treated to one heck of a finish.
Now I'll quickly go on to the second question as they come down the Ulman Straight. It's a track where, again, the teams and drivers are setting up for the street races that kick off the season. It's a different configuration, though, to what the real-world cars come and test at.
Yeah, the real world test on the short track, and to really just sort of take advantage of this bumpy surface on this back half of the track here. But we are using the full track, which really opens up some different opportunities for these drivers, especially into the hairpin at the end of the straight there. So I think that it produces some really good action. We saw it in ISOWC last year, and I think we're going to see it here again today, Arjuna.
35 laps on the board, expecting 2 trips down pit lane, but the safety car is off down onto the safety of pit road, fielding control of the VRS Satellite Racing driver Adam Crane, and we're underway from Sebring International Raceway. Good start from Adam Crane, already going defensive as Blocker now looks to his inside as Danilo Piazza tries to squeeze himself up into second. Too wide, about 4 rows deep, safely through turn 1 though. Now the heavy braking zone as you try and single file yourself out into the tricky right section that brings you down under the bridge into the hairpin, all safely through. A little bit of squabbling just outside the top 5.
Really nice start from everyone. That first corner, we didn't really talk about it on the warm-up lap, but that first corner, one of the trickiest parts of the start here, just because it's so wide coming into a very narrow exit, and these drivers did a fantastic job getting through there safely. But Adam Crane, what a jump that he got on that start, and he's already out to 4 or 5 car length lead over Adam Blocker. And this, I got to be honest, Arjuna, is not quite what I was expecting. I think Blocker just got a little bit complacent there on the start. Oh, we've got
Isaac Snyder. Isaac Snyder's gone off the track. He's the only one that I think has actually lost ground. Now everyone else has managed to cycle through there safely. We did expect a bit of chaos, but you usually expect it through turn 1. Oh, there's more carnage. And that's Alexander Van der Sande, second in the championship, and was trying to make up headway after not putting in a qualifying lap time. But that's the risk of starting back in the pack. He's on the back foot even further now as up front. Adam Blocker tries to get back on the offensive.
Yeah, really unfortunate there for Alexander Van der Sande. I think it was, he just tried to make a move where you really, really have to be careful, and he just got in a little too deep, got on the brakes a little too hard, half spin, and unfortunately is able to go on with, I don't think, any damage. But right back up front here, Adam Blocker, he's making up for his time on that first lap, and he's right back on the back of Adam Crane.
And another spinner. That's Jan Dirks in the 17 car that's had an issue. So 3 different issues on lap 1, but all cars at least still are pointed in the right direction. David Grable I see is a little bit slow as Van der Sande will run past him up into 14th spot. Not really a bit of a big breakaway between the top 2 or 3. Instead, it's the gap between 5th and 6th that has opened up. 2.5 seconds from David Porcelli to Fabio Ciambala. A bit of a lockup from the right front tire as Adam Crane works himself into the hairpin. It's a very bumpy braking zone, very easy to just snatch on that right front as you try and get that car turned in. But this is where we might expect Adam Blocker to hold back, similar to what we saw at Motegi, Andrew, where it took him a few laps to try and find the place to make the pass happen. And once he tried to do so, Crane was so defensive that it required the contact for Blocker to go on through. You said it might get physical. I think you're right.
Yeah, and I don't think that they're necessarily the only one. Will Lyon is looking extremely racy right behind Dan Piazza there. So I think that we've got some battling that's going to happen throughout the top 5 here, at least for the next few laps. But yeah, absolutely. You also mentioned the lockup from Adam Crane, and that's not going to be uncommon here today. One of the things with how bumpy this track is you have to run the dampers in a way that it actually really sort of promotes you snatching that inside front corner a little bit and raising it up off the ground, and that's what causes it to lock up as you're trail braking through the corner. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a fair amount of lockups here today.
Times will just build up in speed as we work our way through the race. We'll take a look now at what happened on the start. Is actually, no, we'll stick with this because Will Lyon to the inside got a great run through turn 1, and Danilo Piazza says have that. Let's see if we can follow those cars in front without losing too much time. Gonzalo Romero will also lose a spot to Nico Yarva. That's for the final spot in the top 10, just about getting through there safely. Let's turn the attention forward, backwards in time I should say, and let's see what happens here. First to Isaac Snyder, who just overcooks it into the braking zone. So easy to do through Cunningham. And now let's see if we can find what happens to Alexander Van der Sande.
Yeah, Van der Sande, he looks to the inside here, and he just doesn't really have a move. Gets on the brakes a little bit too hard, trying to avoid, I believe that was Jan Dirks that he was trying to avoid. Gets on the brakes, just does a little half spin, and fortunately is able to keep on going, and no harm, no foul at that point.
Will Line now looking to try and work his way back forward. Let's see another replay. This has just happened. Van der Sande involved in something else. Trevor Greenfield. Oh, there's contact between them. It's always difficult to go too wide, and I think that left front for Trevor Greenfield has given up the ghost, and that will be likely day done for the number 15 car. Let's spool it back and take one more look at it and see if we can pick up what happens here.
Yeah, they're just going side by side through the hairpin there, and there's a fair bit of air between the two of them there, so that, I think, was just an unfortunate thing that happened.
Here comes
with internet
Blocker.
racing.
Blocker to the
here.
outside, sweeping that momentum, but you want to get down to the inside, maybe an up and under from Adam Blocker. All the while, Will Line closing bit by bit, and this is reminiscent of what we saw at Motegi. 4 cars running away at the front of the field, and Adam Blocker is still unable to find a way through.
Yeah, Will Lyon's looking so strong in 3rd place right now, but the battle between Adam Blocker and Adam Crane is heating up. I think that Blocker really understands that Will Lyon has a lot of speed here, and he's desperately looking for a way by. Crane covers off the inside. Blocker trying to make the outside work, can't quite do it. Now it's all down to whether he can get the power down and get a good run into this next sequence.
David Porcelli uses a second push to pass of the race, as he's now not only just passed Chambala, but he's looking pretty feisty as well. So now it's 5 cars at the front of this field, and you think about the pace that Blocker has shown over the course of the season. It is not just his show, but even though he has won a fair few races, the quality in this iRacing IndyCar community continues to take leaps and bounds forward. As we'll jump on board now with Will Line and just ride around through these penultimate section of corners and watch the line here coming into Le Mans. You see how they just run wide. You're allowed to do that. iRacing's not going to ding you for abusing track limits, but you do need to be a little bit careful over the bumps to make sure you don't unsettle the car. And Adam Crane is feeling the pressure because he's already used 2 of his 10 push-to-passes here.
Yeah, one of the things with these long straightaways is it does give a significant draft advantage to the cars behind, so Adam Crane, as the leader right now, he's having to burn through his push-to-passes, I'm sure, much faster than he really wanted to keep Adam Blocker and Will Lyon back, but so far it's been a really clean, really fantastic battle between these 3 up front.
Still a battle going on for 10th spot as Gonzalo Romero watches on as Nico Yarva squabbles his way to try and get on past Antonio Gagliasso. These cars have fallen about 2 seconds, just under 2 seconds back from Christian Maccarelli, but at least for the time being, Maccarelli in a bit of no man's land. You can again, see just how dark this track is. A lot of the time when we come here for the 12-hour Sebring, it is a hot, hot day, but this is very, very different as Yarva will sling the 7, the green and teal car to the inside of the hairpin. He'll get the place done, and Romero might try and pick up the pieces.
Yeah, really nice move. That was set up through his turns 3 and 4 there, and he did a really good job. Really nice, clean move from Nico Yarva, but I don't think that Gagliasso is quite done with him yet, and Romero is right there as well. This is the dangerous part of the track. It's really tempting to chuck it down the inside, but can... Oh!
Well, that was a wibble wobble if we've ever seen one, and, well, Gonzalo Romero was looking forward, but Hayato Matsuda will say thank you very much, and he'll scamper on past for 11th position. They'll be side by side on the entry down into Le Mans, but Romero able to get the position back. Back out front, let's focus in on the leaders as they come back down in towards Sunset Bend. Watch the lines here as well. Couple of different approaches that can be taken. Crane a little bit wider on the entry, Blocker a little bit tighter. Does seem as though Blocker's just able to use that draft to maintain that momentum just that little bit better.
Yeah, I think what Adam was trying to do there, Adam Blocker, was he was trying to get just that little bit of clean air on the front wings, because even that little bit of downforce is very important through a high commitment corner like Sunset Bend. And you can see Adam Blocker, he's all over the back of Adam Crane right now. It's all down to whether he can get the power down out of one of these corners to really get a good run on Crane. But what Crane is doing a really good job of right now is he's covering off the entrance to the corners and making sure that he's getting a very, very good exit, and is just not allowing Adam Blocker to get that run that he needs on Adam Crane right now.
It's deja vu back to Motegi, where it was basically the same thing, and eventually Blocker just got frustrated. Watch a replay of what happens to David Graybill coming in through Le Mans. You could see just trying to get aggressive on the curbs, hooks the inside, that shoots him out wide, and as he then tries to get on the power and roll himself down onto the Almond Straight, his car snaps around on him, and he's lucky that he doesn't slam into the inside wall, pancaking the right-hand side of that car. What we are seeing, though, is Fabio Ciamballa, Rashad Craig being brought into the fight because Adam Crane is effectively, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, Andrew, he's a trolley train right now. Blocker is just searching for a way past, but he can't. You can see those two cars closing behind.
Yeah, this is just a case where there's so much pressure on Adam Crane. It looks like Blocker going for the inside. Crane covers off Blocker, trying to go around the outside of Sunset, trying to make the corner work on that outside line. Let's see if Blocker can get the power down coming down the main straight here.
He's got a good run, but so does Will Lyon. Are any of these cars going to try and use the push to pass? No, they won't. Almost more contact between the two out front. Will Lyon sees a door. The door gets slammed shut. Blocker might try and go to the inside, but Crane covers it off. Blocker the long way around. Will they make contact? Door gets shut once more. And, well, if you didn't think these cars and these drivers in the virtual world could feel the pressure and their heartbeats going insane, this is the type of racing that sets drivers on edge.
Absolutely outstanding racing from all of these drivers, and you are right, it's no longer a 5-horse race, it's a 6-horse race now, soon to be 7, with Rashad Craig soon to join, but Fabio Ciamballa has already made up the difference. It is now a 6-car train at the front here, and all of them are doing a tremendous job, Arjuna.
Porcelli's hungry and try to get the move done on line into the hairpin, but at least for now, a little bit of separation between second and third as they run themselves down into tower corner. See that gravel on the outside. If you hook a little bit of that, you lose the momentum all the way down into this double left-hander that leads into this right-left-right section that brings you onto the Almond Straight. Blocker has used 1 of his 10 push-to-passes so far. Will Lyon has used none of them. Crane now has used 4 as he once more he gets on the button, uses that 60 to 70 horsepower burst to push him down the straight. Should note, fastest laps for these drivers are in the 141s, the low 141s. Last time by, we were up in the 143s. That is just how much the pace has fallen off as Danilo Piazza, not sure why he's come down onto pit lane so early, but he is boxed, maybe just seeing how slow these cars are going, Andrew, and trying to find some clean air and push it to the limit.
Yeah, it is absolutely all about clean air right now. He's looking at how hard these drivers are fighting, and more importantly, how much they're slowing each other up, and he just figures if he can get into clean air, then what he can do is he can run some big laps. That's a big incident coming off of turn 1 there.
That's Christian Maccarelli. Now, I'd have to assume, just like I was talking about the gravel at turn 10, down at Tower Corner, likely a very similar thing. We'll grab a look when we can, but at least for now, I don't want to turn my eyes off what we have in front of us, which is, again, very reminiscent of what we saw earlier this season. But it's not just this season where these two have gotten elbows out with one another. The punches have been thrown. There's a fair bit of animosity between the two drivers. Yes, there's also mutual respect. They both know that each other's quick, but they don't always agree on how things go out on the racetrack. But that's what racing's all about, isn't it, Andrew?
The bottom line is that both Adam Crane and Adam Blocker are two very aggressive drivers who think that they're more or less entitled to have at least a portion of the racetrack. And sometimes when those entitlements overlap, things can happen. But at the end of the day, these two drivers definitely respect each other's abilities and driving. So I think that what we're seeing here is just some fantastic racing between the two of them as Adam Blocker shoots up the inside, and he might just have the position here to make this happen.
Crane will use all of the runoff on the outside to try and build the momentum down across the line. Ciamballa will come down to pit. Van der Sande has also pit this the last time by. So because it's a 35-lap race, you can't do it with any fuel saving. The fuel window gets opened up. The pit strategy gets opened up. Will line to the pit lane as well, as these two continue to cost each other time. Yes, it's fantastic racing, but if you're Will Lyon, now it's the time to use the fresh tires, get the temperature into them as quickly as possible, and get the undercut working on these three out front.
That was absolutely incredible from Adam Blocker. I don't know how he was able to stay in the gas around the outside of turn 1 like he was, but at the end of the day, Adam Crane just does enough to be able to keep Adam Blocker behind him for one more lap. And you're absolutely spot on, Arjuna. These drivers are just costing each other so much time here. I wouldn't be surprised if both Piazza and Will Lyon and maybe even Chambala are able to leapfrog these drivers as they just lap after lap with their battling keep on costing each other time lap after lap.
Now the question I kind of have is, so if you're Blocker, you do the opposite to what Crane does. If Crane pits this lap, you try and go one more lap and see if, even though you'll have slightly more worn tires, you have the advantage of they don't come out of a tire blanket. They're very much cold, and it will take a half a lap or so to get them up to temperature. Now, if you're Crane, you don't have that advantage because this is a track where you don't have to commit to pit lane as early as you do in other tracks. So it is very much advantage to Adam Blocker as he'll go to the inside once more. Look at how they bobble over the bumps, and I'm very, very surprised that Blocker continues to roll around track in the footsteps of Adam Crane. David Porcelli stays out there as well. Outside line for Adam Blocker once more. His third time the charm. A bit more momentum, but again, he's so tentative of being run out of room. Adam Crane will defend once more. Lap time last time by was a 43.530. Now we wait and see for Will Lyon, for Danilo Piazza, what the lap time will be for them.
So the problem, Arjuna, is that as Adam Blocker and Adam Crane are going through Sunset Bend, they're basically blocking each other off from either of them being able to actually go to pit road at this point, because Adam Blocker keeps on trying to make a move work there. And so Crane, even if he wanted to at this point, can't cut across the front end of Blocker and really come in to the pits at this point. So I think that Blocker is forcing Crane a little bit to stay out. Oh, what a move for Blocker. That was a brave on the brakes. What a move.
How did he get it slowed down in time? It took 10 laps, but Adam Blocker has the lead. Crane thought about the lunge into tower. Wow, what a move that was. I am still unbelievably shocked that Blocker got that one reined in time, late on the anchors, and able to slow it down. Let's take a look at the replay one more time and see exactly what happened here, because that was remarkable. Crane did give him room this time by, but I still do not understand how Blocker was able to get that one done. Both of them now on the button. They know they've held each other up plenty. Question will be, what is Will Lyon going to be able to do in terms of lap time? Remember, 43.5 last time by, and interestingly, Adam Blocker will stay out. Adam Crane finally bites the bullet and comes down to pit lane.
Crane's in, so Blocker right now, he's got to go one lap farther and try and put in the lap of his life here to try and get back out in front of Adam Crane. But going back to that move, Arjuna, what happened there is Adam Blocker had been setting up that move for about 3 laps now. And the reason that I say that is basically what he'd been doing is he'd been trying to put it up the outside of that corner lap after lap. And this time, when he looked to the outside, he sold Adam Crane a dummy and then stood on the brakes on the inside.
Wow,
and it was an incredible move.
Look at how far Will Lyon has cleared Adam Crane. It is not even close. Yes, Will Lyon has had a slightly shorter pit stop, but as Adam Crane comes out of pit road and works his way into turn 2, Will Lyon has already cleared himself of Big Bend. The gap between Will Lyon and Adam Crane is 6.5 seconds. Will Lyon last time by did a 1:41.733.
Yeah, and this is what we were talking about earlier, and he's even under real pressure here from Dan Piazza, as Piazza is on the fresh tires where Crane is still getting his up to temp. So if Piazza wants to get by Crane, he's probably going to have to do it in the next few corners, or else his tires are just going to start to go away. But this is the big story, is what is going to happen here to Adam Blocker? Is he going to now be able to get back in front of not just Adam Crane, but Will Lyon? And I think that Will Lyon has really pulled the strategy rabbit out of the hat here, and I think that he might just be set up for a very good finish here. But we're seeing right now Adam Blocker has committed to going as long as he can on these tires, and what he's doing here, Arjuna, is he is setting up 2 shorter stints to finish this race. So he's going to have fresher tires as the race goes on.
Well,
but
did you
he's going to now have to get by Will Lyon on the track, I guarantee it.
Did you notice the lap time, though, from Adam Blocker, a 1:42.133. Now, Lyon is going to come across the line, lap 2 on his tires, with a 41.8. That is the level that Adam Crane was holding up Blocker. Now that he's got the clean air, no one in front of him, he's only 3/10 slower with tires that are 9 laps older. It should be noted, Will Lyon has gone onto the black mark primary tire as opposed to Blocker still being on the reds. But this is where you'd expect those tires to really start to fall off. There's a look at the tire compounds. Only the top 3 still on the alternates, having not come down pit road. Adam Crane is elected to box for another set of the alternate tires. It's not just going to be about the battle on track. It will be about, like you say, when the pass is being made, because it will have to be done on track, what will the tire strategies look like at that point in time?
Yeah, and we sort of knew that would have to happen. We mentioned off the top where it was a question of, did you want sort of 3 equal stints of red or maybe 1 longer stint of black tires? Everyone who pitted early there to try and gain some advantage from Crane and Blocker holding each other up, they pretty much had to go onto the black tires in order to make the tires last, because you can see, even though Adam Blocker is fairly close to Will Lyon's lap times, the black primary tires, even at this stage in the run, are doing a better job than 12-lap old red tires. So it's definitely the case where strategy is going to play a huge part in this race, but I think I stand by my statement. There's going to have to be a pass on track if Adam Blocker wants to win this race.
Looks like Isaac Snyder is just being passed by Antonio Gagliasso. Now, Gagliasso has just come out of pit lane, I do believe. It's a bit of a moment for Isaac Snyder, where he ran off the road in that Vector by RSR car. David Porcelli on pit lane. There goes Will Lyon. Now, will he emerge in front of Crane? There's Crane. Again, those tires will be up to temperature and pressure. Crane should just about have it. But the indication is that with the pace that Blocker has, a 42.2 last time by, he should still emerge in front of Adam Crane at the very least. That gap has come down slightly. It's 5.3 between Lyon and Crane. This is why we love these different tire strategies, and why we love, Andrew, the fact that we're going to be forcing drivers to use both compounds in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, it's going to make every race like this one, and I can't wait to see what happens. But just going back to David Porcelli there, crucially for him, he went, I believe it was 3 laps longer than Adam Crane did, but he came out only about a second and a half behind him. So that's going to give Porcelli a tire advantage on this run and probably the next run as well. So I don't think that Crane is done with the battling here today at all. I think David Porcelli does stand a very good chance of potentially battling with the number 2 car of Adam Crane.
13 laps in, does Blocker dive down? No, he's going to stay out there potentially until the end of this fuel window, but we'll have to wait and see. And going back to the tire compounds things, the hope is that it's not confirmed just yet, but iRacing will shed the requirement for drivers to start on the tire compound that they qualify on, because again, in the real world NTT IndyCar series, that's not something that we see. It's about it's a free choice of tire, but like again, they are forced to run at least 1 green flag lap with both of the tires. So that's where potentially we'll see a little bit of different strategy. It will mean that maybe you'll see cars at the front qualify on the alternates, but then elect to start on the blacks when the track temperature is warm. And speaking of the conditions, let's give you that update. 27 degrees in the air. It's up now to 39 degrees track temperature. That wind, though, 26 kilometers an hour. And that is always shifting very slightly. It's a minute change, but when the wind is that strong, Andrew, a minute change is significant.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we've already seen it catch out a couple of drivers here. I believe it was Gonzalo Romero who got very, very loose coming into that tower corner. That was probably, thinking about it, that was probably the wind that caught him out there just a little bit. So it is definitely a factor in this race, no question about it.
Blocker back onto the Almond Straight. Rashad Craig on the push to pass. Let's give you the update on how drivers have rationed that out. Again, they get 10 usages of the button, slightly different to how it works in the real world. Blocker is used to coming down to pit lane this time by, so we'll get a good indication of how Blocker has actually been able to maybe gain a little bit more speed on the likes of Will Lyon, on the likes of Adam Crane. And now we'll wait and have to see. Here comes Lyon, rolling himself down in towards Sunset Bend. You can see the gap behind is now 4.8 to Adam Crane as Blocker takes that second pit stall. He'll go up on the jacks. Fresh tires going onto that car. It will be a full tank of fuel as well. Lyon will be clear. Again, the question is, Andrew, how clear is he going to be?
Yeah, I suspect it's going to be probably about 3 or 4 seconds here for Will Lyon, as you see Will Lyon already through the first corner as Adam Blocker's just rejoining here. Actually, Adam Crane is right on the back of Adam Blocker here, so this battle between the two of them maybe isn't quite done yet.
How quick can Blocker get those Firestone tires into their operating window? Will Lyon take this opportunity to run away? Crane's got the momentum coming out of Big Bend under the bridge. They'll go into the hairpin. Inside line is where you want to be. We saw this when Crane was the one defensive. Blocker will park it on the apex. And now we'll have to see if Adam Crane can do what Blocker did when he finally got the move done. Can he sling a move to the inside of Cunningham corner? Blocker goes defensive straight away, and Adam Crane does not commit just yet.
Yeah, and that was probably Crane's one opportunity, and Blocker covered it off really well. He stayed towards the inside throughout that entire straightaway and made his intentions clear there. And I think that what's going to happen is now Adam Blocker is going to fire up his tires for the rest of this lap, and I don't think that Crane is going to be able to make a pass on him. But what it does do is look at the back of Adam Crane. David Porcelli, who, by the way, currently holds the fastest lap of the race, is now right on the back of Adam Crane.
And the tire difference between the two of them is only 2 laps, but 2 laps is somewhat significant as a couple of drivers further down the field get on the button. Rashad Craig now has 6 usages left. Nico Yarva has 7. And a bit of a split in terms of the tires as well. There you can see 2nd through 4th all on the alternates, but they're the only ones in the top 10 that have gone with that softer compound tire. Lyon's gap is down to 3.9 seconds. Last time by for him was a 1:42.225. I do think we will see Adam Blocker take the fastest lap away from David Porcelli this time by. I'm expecting a sub 1:41.5 from Blocker.
Yes, Blocker does like to put out the fast laps, especially on new tires here. So I definitely expect that Blocker will be pushing as hard as he can. And he's got a little bit of a mountain to climb. He started this lap, I believe it was almost 4 seconds back. He's cut into that gap already 6/10 to Will Lyon. He's 3.2 seconds back as we speak. So he's definitely on it.
On board with David Porcelli as he closes in on the red, blue, and white VRS satellite racing machine. Watch the gears as well. Look how much they're working that gearbox. See some drivers electing not to use first. They want the additional traction that you can get, even if it's maybe a little bit less snappy, getting onto the power, rolling yourself out of the corners. But it also means that potentially you're scrubbing off a little bit less speed coming through the various portions of the track. Again, using all of the track that they can grab coming onto the Ullman Straight. Porcelli just a little bit too far behind. Look at the gap that Adam Blocker has already managed to eat into. It is 2.5 seconds and closing. Adam Blocker is right on the pace, and I said a 1:41.5, a sub 1:41.5 is the lap time expected. Might even be the only car to dip below the 41s across the line, and it is a 47.88, and he has used a number of push to passes, I think, to make that happen, because he's only got 6 of the 10 left for the rest of this race.
That was a statement lap from Adam Blocker, and what he was doing there, Arjuna, is he knows that he's got one shot with these red tires to really get up and take it to Will Lyon. If he spends more than about 5 or 6 laps on these red tires without being able to overtake Will Lyon, those black tires that Will Lyon has, they're going to pass by him in terms of pace. So I think what you saw there was Blocker understands he just needs to do whatever it takes to get up to the back of Will Lyon and get by him while those reds still have life left in them.
Now, you should note that that lap time is not actually classified as the fastest of the race because Blocker ran a little bit wide at some point in time, invalidated the lap from being classified as the fastest lap, but the indication of just how much he is pushing the limits in that number one machine. Now the gap dips below 2 seconds, closing bit by bit. Once he gets into drafting range, how long will it take for him to get past? Because like you say, Andrew, those tires, they're going to start falling off, and even though Lyon is 6 laps further into his stint, he's going to be degrading those tires at a much, much slower rate than the car in front is.
Yeah, and sorry to drag you away from this battle, but before it heats up quickly, I just wanted to mention that Nico Jarva and Fabio Ciamballa just had an incident in Cunningham Corner there, so we might want to quickly get a replay of that going.
We'll take a look when we can. Across the line is a 41 dead, and that will be the fastest lap for Blocker, this time by 1.3 the advantage that Will Lyon now has, and it's closing ever so slightly, corner by corner.
Yeah, just unbelievable stuff from Adam Blocker. He is pushing so hard here. And this is really when Adam Blocker shines, is when he sees a car in front of him that he has to go and chase. And he just goes into this zone where he just goes corner by corner, lap by lap, and you can see just how well he's going. But that's not the only battle on track. David Porcelli is really all over the back of Adam Crane right now.
Yeah, he's just not able to find a way past. He's had a couple of looks here and there, but doesn't want to commit too early. He also knows that Crane seems to be struggling with the long run pace of his car. And once more through Cunningham, he'll have to bide his time. Let's go ahead and dial up the replay, see what happened between Fabio Ciamballa and Nico Jarva. Jarva just goes deep into the braking zone and tags the rear end of Ciamballa's car. Now, I don't think they actually lost any positions from that, so that's the only saving grace, but right on board with Jarva, and you'll see just it's another bumpy braking zone, overcommitting, and, well, oh, he doesn't just overcommit, he blows past the braking zone.
I believe if we talked to Henry Bennett, our teammate, he would have a story about Adam Blocker about doing that exact same thing in that exact same corner in a certain ISOWC race.
No love lost between teammates, right?
No, that's just one of those things that's really easy to happen at that particular corner, because all you have for braking references are those cones on the side of the track. So if you miss seeing one of the cones, you can very easily think that you're one braking marker earlier than you actually are. So it's a very easy thing to do. And one thing I will say is that Nico Jarva did allow Ciamballa to rejoin in front of him, and the battle continues. But what it has done is brought Romero right back into that battle between the three of them now.
Riding on board with the points leader as around the hairpin they come. It is close as well, like Andrew points out, for 7th on back. Van der Sant trying to be brought into the mix as well after that incident that he had on lap number 1 down into the tower corner. Lyon looking composed, even though he is not the one doing the chasing, he is the one having to defend. There's a pun there somewhere about lions, food chains and something, but at least for now I'm too focused on the fact that Blocker, even though he has closed that gap, is not able to get within that half a second buffer. He'll close through Le Mans, but he's still too far back potentially to be able to lunge down into Sunset Bend without requiring another use of the push to pass. And Adam Blocker is typically someone that, Andrew, we see save those push to passes until the end of the race.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about, and I was fearing that Adam Blocker might fall victim to, is he just doesn't quite have the grip left in those red tires to really close on Will Lyon through those high-speed corners, and that's where the mechanical grip of the tires really comes into play. So the problem is that even though Blocker went as fast as he did and got up to Will Lyon as quickly as he did, it just wasn't quick enough to have enough life left in those tires, and it's really, you can see it in some of these longer corners where it's just the grip isn't quite there on the exit.
Now though, we are in the window where you could stop from here and make it to the end, so there's the opportunity that maybe Blocker does the old switcheroo, which is, you know, he's only done 5 laps on this set of tires, but he'll come on in and maybe go for a black Maybe he doesn't even need the black. We saw the longevity that he was able to extract from those red alternate tires in that first portion of the race. Maybe he can try and get the undercut working by himself. Porcelli on the push to pass, now trying to get past Crane into the very same corner where Blocker threw the lunge. Porcelli is thinking about it. He doesn't want to overcommit, and at least for now, he'll continue to bide his time. That was a push to pass burn, though, in the act of trying to go on through. We'll give you that update on how those are looking, the 10 usages of the 60 to 70 horsepower burst that they get. Will Line still with a untouched 10. Now, will he let that loose in the final stint? We'll have to wait and see, but you can see Crane has felt the pressure. He's down to his final 3, but the trend that you see is a lot of these drivers, Andrew, have been using that to get the runs to try and set up passes here.
Yeah, there's been... So, one thing I just want to say is that, like, David Porcelli tried to go very deep into Cunningham, just like Adam Blocker did, but that just shows just how good of a move that Adam Blocker made through Cunningham corner on Adam Crane, because I would hesitate to say that anyone else could have been able to pull off that deep of a braking zone, because Adam Crane is a notorious late breaker, and to be out braked, it shows how good Adam Blocker was through there, because David Porcelli is also a very talented driver. So yeah, just wanted to say that. But you're absolutely right about the push to passes. One of the things with Sebring is because we have such long straightaways, and getting up and off the corner well is so important. It does really throw sort of a wrench into exactly how you want to use those 10 push to passes, and having that limited number, it really does sort of weigh in your mind, especially as you've burned through them earlier than you wanted to in this race. So drivers like Adam Crane, they're going to be searching for the absolute best places to use them, but they could very well find themselves out of push to passes sooner rather than later.
You're not allowed to say too many nice things about Blocker. We're going to get accused of power slide bias again, Andrew.
I know, but in this case, I think that move justifies... Well, I still can't get
I agree.
over that.
No, I agree. I was so befuddled as how he was able to get the car stopped in time. I thought for sure he had overcooked the corner, and not just... I wasn't even thinking he was going to make contact. I thought he was just going to blow straight into the grass. I thought he was done for. And now it is funny you mentioned the ISO WC race earlier, because I was thinking about that earlier today, and that was like that was the only road course race where we didn't have a full course caution over the course of the 4 road races that we ran. And there's a great picture of lap 1 and the start that we had there, where first, second, third, and I think fourth was single file, and then everyone else was too wide, just trying to find some space coming in the first couple of corners. Danilo Piazza will come in, the first to make his final stop of the race. I still think if you're Adam Blocker, maybe you do something different than what you were planning after that first cycle. You try and get the undercut working here, because we know he's got the pace. Question is, does he have enough pace to get the pass done on track and then run away? Because it's not as simple as just getting the pass done, because Will Lyon will go straight down to pit road and try and do the undercut once more.
Yeah, so if I'm Adam, I'm actually going to do the opposite. I think that I have to go long again. He committed to going long that first stint, and the thing is, he knows that Will Lyon is going to have to come in probably this lap or the next lap after that. So if I'm Adam Blocker, I'm trying to extend this as long as the tires will let me. So once he starts seeing the tires sort of fall off again, then maybe consider coming in. But for right now, if I'm Adam Blocker, I'm going to try the undercut and try to use some fresh air once Will Lyon comes in to maybe make that undercut work. But yeah, it's definitely... There are definitely varying strategy plays, and I see what you mean about trying to do an undercut, but I just think that Will Lyon is going to have to come in, if not this lap, next lap.
We'll wait and see, because he's coming through the final corner, Sunset Bend, and he is indicating to pit road, and here he comes. The orange and blue machine blinks early. Now he is going to have a fairly long run down pit lane before he's able to get back up to speed. The question will be, where is he going to emerge? It's about a 33-second total pit lane trip. That is actually going to put him just into some clean air. He'll be behind Gonzalo Romero. And as he goes up on the jacks, what's the time going to be? It was about 7.2 for him in stint 1. It's 9.7 in pit stop number 2. So a bit longer, but Where will that feed him out? So for now, let's focus the attention towards some of the other battles. David Porcelli still unable to find a way past Adam Crane. Crane likely in the same situation as Will Lyon, where he might come down to pit, maybe not this time by, but maybe the next time, Andrew, because he's 12 laps into the run.
And sorry, the other thing that I want to mention that's crucial for Will Lyon is that he is again on those black tires again. So one of the things with those black tires is it takes longer for them to come in. So expect Will Lyon to probably be slow for maybe the first lap and a half of this stint, rather than just the first half a lap that we see with those red tires. So this is definitely an opportunity, a slow pit stop for Will Lyon and tires that'll take a bit to come in. Now is the time for Adam Blocker to potentially get around Will Lyon on this pit cycle.
And as a driver, how many laps do you wait, Andrew, to come down pit lane if you're Blocker then? Because he's at 8 laps into the run. I'm not sure exactly when the crossover is, but maybe 1-2 laps, and then he'll start to feel the pain of the red mark alternate tires.
It probably depends on just how much fuel that he put in on the last pit stop, because he probably didn't fill up all the way. My guess would be, counting backwards from the end of the race, I'd say he's probably going to go another 2 or 3 laps and try and have a shortest stint at the end, just in case he does end up coming out behind Will Lyon.
Crane and Porcelli in lockstep onto pit road. A bit surprised that Porcelli would come down with the Canadian in front of him, because he had fresher tires, and maybe now we'll see both of these cars work their way onto the black mark alternate tires. Up on the jacks they go. Doesn't look like they're changing tire compounds, but Porcelli with a much shorter stop. It's a race off of pit road. They'll be neck and neck as they release the limiters. Porcelli's got the inside, but how much room does he want to give? Oh, you're allowed to do that. You can cut as soon as the cones end to get back out onto track, so there's no danger of getting a penalty. But Adam Crane aggressive out of pit road, and he'll hold on to net third position.
Adam Crane is one of the most difficult people to pass in the IndyCar paddock, and you can see that the tires just don't have very much grip, as David Porcelli nearly loses it coming off the corner there. But that was just some great driving from Adam Crane, holding it around the outside there, keeping the momentum and really outbraking Porcelli into that second corner there. So great driving and nice clean exit there. It could have easily ended in disaster, but it was some really good driving. And I think Porcelli we have not seen the last of the battle between Adam Crane and David Porcelli at this point.
So here's Blocker through Sunset Bend. He'll make it 11 to go this time by. Now Will Lyon has still not used a single push to pass. I wonder if maybe he's waiting and biding his time. Maybe he'll start using them now. He's behind Gonzalo Romero and Nico Yarva. That's not where he wants to be, but not on the button, so he's just relying on pure pace. I would hope that Romero's going to make his life easy, but he won't, and this is valuable time. But look at that. Lyon has the grip and sends it around the outside of Sunset Bend.
Really nice stuff from Will Lyon, and he got even more of a break as Nico Yarva does dive for pit lane, so he suddenly has some clean air. But that maneuver there cost Will Lyon a substantial amount of time here, and I think that may have just put Adam Blocker.
So here comes Blocker. 10 laps to go this time by. As he runs himself into the final corner. He's coming in this time. So now we'll find out, Andrew, are you right? Has that traffic cost Will Lyon the chance to hold on to his race lead?
Yeah, just as I suspected, Adam Blocker's had just a 10-lap stint at the end here, so he is definitely cut these last 2 stints as short as he can, and I think it might just be enough to have a short enough pit stop to get out in front of Will Lyon. Will Lyon coming through Sunset Bend right now, and I don't think that he's going to have enough to get back by Adam Blocker.
Blocker's still there. When will he release himself? There he goes. Now do remember, Blocker has gone back onto the red mark tires. They will come up to temperature relatively quickly, but as Will Lyon dikes his way in towards turn number 1, they're neck and neck, and Lyon has just about held on to the race lead. It will come down to these final 10 laps. It might be all about the tires that they've chosen to run to the checkered flag.
Oh, what driving from Will Lyon. He did a mammoth job on that last lap to really push it and make sure that he came out in front of Adam Blocker there. So great driving from Will Lyon. But as you mentioned, it's now red tires versus black tires, and we saw just how fast Adam Blocker was in laps 2 through 5 on those red tires. So this is where it's all going to count for Will Lyon. Will he be able to keep Adam Blocker behind him for these next 2 to 5 laps here?
And this is where surely those push-to-passes come in handy. Blocker has not even done half a lap on those reds, but they're right where he needs them to be, already harassing the rear end of the Indy Alliance orange and blue machine as they come through Tower Corner. He might have to wait until they're on the Elman Straight, but this move might not be too far away.
Adam is definitely looking like he wants to make this move sooner rather than later, and I really have to question when Will Lyon is going to start to use these push-to-passes, because it's got to be soon. He can't afford to have Adam Blocker this close to him coming on a back straightaway, and I think we might see the move here from Adam Blocker. He's on the push-to-pass, Arjuna.
To the inside of Sunset Bend. Side by side, they'll dive. We talked about the multitude of different lines you can run. Lyon might try and set up the up and under. Blocker runs himself all the way to the outside, and Lyon will take that opportunity to get back into the lead. Blocker uses another push to pass, ducking and diving. Lyon trying to hold on. Blocker finally has the inside of turn 1, and he won't say no to that one. Blocker takes back the race lead as Lyon tries to find a way past. Blocker says, no thank you, this is my race from now.
What a battle we are seeing between these two. Some great driving from both of these drivers. The over-under move from Will Lyon done to perfection when Adam made a small mistake through Sunset Bend, but Adam comes right back, right around Will Lyon. And so I got a question, Arjuna, because did we see Will Lyon on the push to pass there?
No, he's still not used a single of the push-to-passes. And I'm almost 100% sure he has the button mapped, because I think we've seen him used it before, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, because I was actually about to ask, like, we've seen Will not use the push-to-passes for a variety of reasons before, so could it be one of those technical issues where maybe he was doing a different style of racing, unmapped the push-to-pass, and realized when he got in here that he didn't have a button mapped?
I think, though, now that is the race done and dusted. The crossover point with the tires, we're getting word, is about lap 10, so not enough laps for Adam Blocker's red tires to give up the ghost as Will Lyon gets a hold. There we go, he's finally on the push to pass. It's like he realized we were talking about that.
Yeah, and he's got to be thinking, wait, why didn't I use this the last lap? It could have been much easier through these final corners. So the one thing I will say is he does have a number of push-to-passes left, so he might just be able to stay in contact with Adam Blocker long enough for Adam's tires to start to go off. So it might not quite be done yet, but he's got to do whatever he can these next few laps to stay close enough to Adam Blocker to have those push-to-passes work.
He's had to fight for this one. I mean, it's been a season of Powerslide Motorsports, and I know the people who complain about the bias here in the commentary booth will take offense to that one, but it has been 10 races leading up to this. Only the first did not go the way of Powerslide, and even Brandon Traynor will admit that if Adam Blocker hadn't made the uncharacteristic mistake of not putting in enough fuel, Blocker would have taken the race win. It's been a season where Blocker has led the charge with dominance, again, just like what we're used to seeing with him in the Lionheart IndyCar Series.
Yes, but that being said, we're also seeing a number of new drivers really emerging and knocking on the door, and none bigger than Will Lyon. I don't think that there's been a bigger revelation in the IndyCar Series in a few seasons, in fact, to the driving that we've seen from Will Lyon, and what he's done today is just another example. I think it's only a matter of time before we see him take one of these races from Adam Blocker. The strategy was just about there from Will Lyon, and I think that maybe if he'd been a little bit better with his uses of the push-to-pass, we could still see him in front. So yes, it's been a dominant season from Powerslide Motorsports, but there's been a lot of other storylines to follow, and Will Lyon is definitely one of those storylines that can't wait to see in a next season as well.
I like that you're balancing out the bias now. That's definitely what we need. Focusing back then on Crane and Porcelli, separated by 6 or 7 tenths. Porcelli has used a push to pass this last time down the Elman Straight to try and close that gap, but after being neck and neck on pit lane, it's not as close this time by. Now, where's Rashard Craig? Because Craig has just finished his final pit stop. There is the number 8 machine. will emerge about 7/10 in front of Danilo Piazza. So decent race for Craig. Yes, he qualified better, but given how crazy that first stint was, where it was a 5-car breakaway and they were all really just jockeying around with one another, it really could have been worse.
Sorry, there was the driver behind Craig. I think that was Piazza, nearly lost it coming out of the corner there, and we've seen that from a number of drivers. But yeah, Craig is another driver that I really want to sing the praises of, because he's done a really good, solid job this season. And one of the knocks on Rashad Craig coming into the season is he tended to make a mistake or two here and there. So far this season, the reason that he's got into where he has in the point standings is he's really been one of the most consistent drivers, especially on the road courses. I think he's really stepped up his game. It's been a quiet drive from him today, yes, but it's one of those drives that really it does you well in a championship scenario. So really good driving from Rashad Craig. And just to balance it out more, as you say, with the power slide bias.
Now, he should actually leapfrog Brian Carey by virtue of this, I believe. Now, don't quote me on that, but it might be all about the points on offer next week at the Tricky Triangle. And yes, we don't really see IndyCar go there anymore. The last 2 races there have both seen horrific accidents, but it's one of the biggest tests of IndyCar drivers on an oval, Andrew, because it's fast, it's furious, and it's got 3 corners, none of which are like one another.
Yeah, Pocono, it's one of those tracks where it almost belongs in the virtual world with how it is and how dangerous it is in the real world. But in the virtual world, of course, there isn't those safety concerns, and we can really see what this car can do at Pocono. And it's one of those tracks where it's probably my favorite oval track, just because of how challenging it is, how much of the racing really is in the driver's hands. So I can't wait to see what these drivers do there next week. I think it'll be a really good show. But back at the front here, Adam Blocker now 2.5 seconds in front of Will Lyon with 5 laps to go. But the gap, I believe, Arjuna, has really started to stabilize here in the last couple of laps.
It has. No, the lap time delta has dropped very slightly now. I think Alexander Van der Zandt might have had another moment in what has been a bit of a chaotic, and that's probably a bit of an understatement, chaotic race for the number 9 car. Now, Van der Zandt has really shown a lot of speed this season, and not just here in this series, but in other series as well. He's not necessarily had the consistency. Let's take a look at what happened to him coming through Big Bend. Just overcommits into the corner a little too fast, does a good job to wrangle it through the dirt. Let's jump on board and watch his steering inputs here, because you'll just see a bit too fast in, the car pushes wide, and smart to not get onto the power and try and use a boot full of 600, 650 odd horsepower to try and get back out onto track. But another driver that we'll talk briefly about Lionheart, Andrew, because I can't wait for that. I've been working all weekend on getting up to speed and getting everything prepped for that. But Blocker is now a 4-time champion. Last year was the type of season that no one can beat. He continued his streak of not finishing outside the top 5. He's now got a record in 2021 that shows that he's won half the races he's entered, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But this is probably the year where the competition is the most stiff. You have the drivers that entered half, maybe less than half of the races last year. They got their chance to step up, and now they'll be making a full crack at the championship. It includes the like of Phil Kraus, Robert Malechka, of Alexander Van der Zandt. There's a couple more as well, but the reality is, just looking at the newcomers, not even looking at the people like yourself who have been there for a while, this is going to be the best season of Lionheart IndyCar Series that they've had in the series history.
Oh, absolutely. The competition level in Lionheart is just going to be through the roof. We were talking in the Discord earlier, and there's going to be 10 drivers every race with a chance to win it on both ovals and road courses. It's going to be insane competition, and one of the main factors of this, unlike this open series, it is a fixed setup, so everyone will be driving the same setup, and it just brings the drivers just that little bit closer together. And so I think that this season in Lionheart, what you're going to see is the closest racing you've seen in an IndyCar on iRacing across all different disciplines. So I just can't wait to get this season off the ground and running, and it's just over a week away now.
Not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, I should say. Getting all sorts of confused because time has just flown past these last couple of days. Focusing back as Rashad Craig tries to use the fresh rubber to close on David Porcelli. Now, Porcelli's tires do seem to be giving up a little bit worse in this final stint of the race. He's lost about 1 second to Adam Crane. Rashad Craig wants to try and get up onto the outside, the podium positions. He'll go the outside line around that hairpin. Opportunity not presenting itself, and he's down to just one push to pass left for the rest of this race. Let's also pick up something that happened to Isaac Snyder, who takes the alternate route around the hairpin, at least in that Vector by RSR car. No major damage done there. Rashad Craig.
One thing to mention with this battle, Arjuna, is that Rashad Craig is one of the last cars that came down pit lane, so he is on new red tires, and David Porcelli is on much older red tires. So I think that's one of the things you're seeing is that Rashad Craig's steady sort of drive, I think this is where it's really going to pay off for him, is he might even be able to steal a podium away from Adam Crane with those new tires on right now.
Now, do remember that Craig was qualified up in third, but wasn't too aggressive. He didn't force the issue when people like Porcelli were really just going for the jugular in the first 5-10 laps of the race. He has bided his time. He's let the strategy come towards him. Now, he did get a little bit squirrely coming through Sunset Bend. That means he won't get the opportunity to make the lunge into turn 1, but with the grip in his tires, can he set up a move down to turn number 3? Still a bit too far behind. 3 laps to go this time by. He's got about 18 kilometers to try and get back up to where he qualified, but I think now with this fighting, Adam Crane 3 seconds clear of David Porcelli. Craig is just fighting for 4th.
Yeah, and it looks like there might just be a move coming down into the hairpin here. Craig is really strong on the brakes, and we saw him try it down the outside last time. Tries it again this time, doesn't quite have it. And now it's all down to whether or not he can get the power down out of one of these corners and really find a little bit of extra braking at the end of one of these straights and make that move on David Porcelli.
Look at how he closed under the brakes down into Cunningham. That was very, very deep. But again, just like we saw with Adam Blocker, able to use the grip of his tires to get it just slowed down in the nick of time all over the rear end. He also only has 1 usage of the push to pass left for the rest of this race. David Porcelli has also got 1 final spurt of horsepower, as now Porcelli in that number 3 car is the one getting a little bit loose. Does it set up the move for Craig? A little bit looser for Porcelli coming onto the Almond Straight, and here's the opportunity. Rashad Craig uses his final push to pass of the race. He'll look the long way around at Sunset Bend, but if he gets the move done, David Porcelli should not be able to use that push to pass to come back at him, and Craig over the bumps the long way around has got 4th position away from David Porcelli.
Really nice move from Rashad Craig, but it's not done yet. Porcelli burning 1 push to pass. He makes the inside work. Will Craig be able to hold it around the outside? Porcelli takes the inside, but he runs wide. Craig with the over-under. What a move from Rashad Craig to keep that 4th position. And
that was knowing that those tires on Porcelli's IndyCar had already gone off. Yes, he used the push to pass, but just not able to roll the momentum the same way that he would have done 10 laps ago when Porcelli came out of pit road. And for Rashad Craig, any hopes of 3rd have now gone. 4 seconds back from Adam Crane. Porcelli will be looking in the rear view mirrors because here comes Danilo Piazza as well, who has used all of that fighting to close. Now he is a bit further into the stint than Porcelli, but because Piazza has taken the Black Mark primary tire, he's really holding up just that little bit better. Last time by, he was even 7/10 quicker than Rashad Craig. That's how hard Craig and Porcelli were duking it out with one another. 1 final lap, though, about to get underway for Adam Blocker, and it's another fantastic race. We were talking about how the likes of Will Lyon have really started to increase the excitement about these races, Andrew. There is no better example than here today.
What a race that we have witnessed here today, Arjun. It's had a little bit of everything. It's had moves made based on strategy. It's had fantastic passes on the track. There's been drama. There's been clean racing. It's just been a great race to watch. And at the top right now, Adam Blocker is just under one lap away from taking home one more win. But Will Lyon not giving up yet. He's down to 1.7 seconds back. So it might be a little bit too little too late. But if there's even a small mistake from Blocker, Will Lyon is not willing to let him just walk away with this.
He's been burning through the push-to-passes at a decent clip. Didn't use any of them before the final stint of this race and didn't even touch them until after Blocker had already got past. But now he is down to just one final 60 horsepower burst. But like Andrew says, too little, too late, unless Blocker really makes a huge mess up of this final half a lap with 1.3 seconds the gap, and Blocker having a push-to-pass to spare as well. Should be good enough to get him through into victory lane. Still also closing up between Danilo Piazza and David Porcelli. That gap now down to 0.4 of a second. Piazza did use his final push to pass last time on the Elman straight to close that gap down, and it has really worked a treat. The first two-stop race that we've had this season, and it blew the strategy wide open. That first 10 laps was an all-out brawl. Crane and Blocker duking it out neck and neck. Will Lyon took the lead with some clever pit stop strategy, but Adam Blocker roared back to win once more in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. He conquers the bumps of the Sebring International Raceway. Looking back as Lyon takes second and Crane takes third. Can Piazza spring a last lap surprise on David Porcelli? Ascend to the inside, and Danilo Piazza will rip away potentially fifth as Porcelli gets the momentum on the outside of Sunset Bend. Porcelli grabs fifth back at the death. A classic, an all-time classic in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. One final race to go. It will see us head to the tricky triangle. This run to the championship has been spectacular.
What a race we just witnessed, and it's just typified by that last lap maneuver that we saw for 6th and 7th place there. Adam Blocker, just a classic drive today, but Will Lyon, I think Arjuna, with that finishing position less than a second behind Adam Blocker, that was a message saying, I'm here and don't get too comfortable on that top step of the podium, because Will Lyon, with just a small mistake, could have very easily ended up in victory lane here today. Fantastic driving from both of them, from all three of the podium runners, in fact, with Adam Crane taking third. What a race we've seen here today.
I thought after those first 10 laps it was going to be like Motegi, but it was like Motegi and then some. What a season it's been, and I can't wait for 7 days from now to crown a champion once more. It is Adam Blocker who will head into the Pocono Mountains with one hand on the championship, and it would take a disaster for him not to win yet another championship here on a Monday night. Let's take a look at our race results. 35 laps later, it's only 1 second that splits Adam Blocker from Will Lyon. Will Lyon 4 positions up from where he qualified, but he put on a show to the very end. Adam Crane, well, he did his best. He held on valiantly for 9 odd laps, but once Adam Blocker broke free from there, it was goodbye Blocker, and Crane was more concerned with defending from David Porcelli. Rashad Craig, well, an interesting strategy for him, trying to just run this as a much more regular race. It's good enough for 4th as he fights for a top 5 in the championship. David Porcelli holding on by 1.5 tenths from Danilo Piazza. Last lap, last corner drama for the both of them. Gonzalo Romero in 7th with Nico Java in 8th. Fabio Ciambala 9th, while Alexander Van der Sant does recover after failing to set a qualifying lap time, but from 17th, 10th is the best that he could get. Couple of issues for Isaac Snyder in today's race. He finishes down in 11th with David Grable and Jan Dirks, the other cars on the lead lap. Antonio Gagliasso finishes 1 lap down with Trevor Greenfield a further lap down, while Hayato Matsuda and Christian Maccarelli complete the 17 cars that set out onto the track. And Gonzalo Romero, with a fastest lap of 1:43.33. I think that was push to pass assisted in the final 6 odd laps of this race. Well, let's head on down once more to victory lane, where we find Adam Blocker once more, and it was stern fight between Blocker and Crane in the opening stint. Blocker joins us now. How much fun was that, Adam, between the two of you? I mean, we were thinking that maybe it would end more like it did at Twin Ring Motegi, where there was a little bit of contact, but instead it was an almighty lunge into Cunningham Corner. Still don't understand exactly how you slowed that one down in time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. I felt like maybe he could have drove a little bit more cleanly because he was basically running me off the road in turn one and also like just moving in reaction to me on the back straight. But yeah, in the end, that move was purely instinctual because I wasn't planning on doing that when we got to the brake zone. But yeah, I mean, just saw that he moved over a ton, and I knew he was kind of braking early there, and I almost hit him honestly because I didn't expect him to brake that early. So yeah, but it was that was a really good move. I was happy with that. From there, it was just trying to do offset strategy with Will and just run him down on fresher tires.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, once you saw Will come down, was there any ever thought that maybe you'd come down and try to cover him, or were you committed to this strategy? Did you lay this one out beforehand?
So, I mean, originally I was always wanting to do a long first stint, but honestly, fighting Adam really hurt that strategy because it was holding me up a lot, holding us all up. So then when Will pitted, I knew he was going to come out way in front, and he did. And fortunately, I had a lot fresher tires and was able to catch him. But by the time I got to the end of the stint, there wasn't enough of a tire delta for me to do anything. So yeah, it was pretty tough. But I knew I was thinking of undercutting for the last stint, but I saw that he was going to come out in traffic, and that might hold him up a bit. So I just stuck to my strategy, and yeah, I came out on really fresh tires behind him and was able to make the move pretty quickly.
I'm glad that you said that you were thinking about the undercut, because now I'm not totally crazy. I was postulating that maybe that might have been an interesting call. Now, one thing that we were talking about pre-race was the fact that if this was one lap shorter, it would have opened up the opportunity to try and do a one-stop race. But I think the two-stop really did blow the fuel window out. This is why we include them every so often as part of this championship schedule.
Yeah, it made it really interesting, different pit windows. And then also both tire compounds here were viable, as you saw with Will running blacks there at the end, and he really came on strong the last few laps. So yeah, I mean, it was just a crazy race in terms of strategy and really tough to navigate. So I mean, it was just great. So.
I'll ask you one final question before we wrap things up, because it was confirmed that this championship in a couple of weeks' time for the Season 2 will require both tire compounds to be used. That's going to mix things up just even more. This new tire model has breathed some new life into the IndyCar. It's brought the likes of Will Line into the fold as well, and it's looking up and up for the entire series for the car as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that rule is going to make things interesting, especially some tracks like Long Beach, for example, where the reds are way better. So that means it's going to force you to run the blacks and have a really slow stint. So yeah, I think it's going to bring even more strategy into play, and also the fact that you can hopefully start on whatever compound you want will also make things interesting. But yeah, I mean, the tire compounds has really added a lot to the series, and yeah, just looking forward to more of it next season.
Thanks for joining us, Adam, and we'll see you in 7 days, right? You're not going to be away again because of the race this weekend?
Yep, see you guys at Pocono.
Well, enjoy St. Pete, and we'll see you then at the Tricky Triangle. Now joined by Will Line, who tried to fight valiantly, but Adam Blocker on the red mark tires just unable to hold him back. Great drive from you again, Will. Glad that you've finally been able to join us here, because it's been a breakout season for you here. We've enjoyed watching you duel it out in an IndyCar.
Yeah, thanks. It was a really good race today, actually, with differing strategies, and yeah, I've just enjoyed the season in general, and you know, I've got to say a big thanks to everyone at Indy Alliance Racing for bringing me on board, and particularly showing me the ropes on ovals, and you know, hopefully, you know, we can push on forward on the road courses. But yeah, today the whole season's just been brilliant experience, and yeah, I did my best at the end there to get as close as I could to Adam, but he had a few pushes to pass there at the end, and I just couldn't quite get in the draft. But it was yeah, it was a really interesting race.
Leads me nicely into the question, why weren't you using the push to pass early? We were almost wondering if you had forgot to map it or something like that.
No, I knew that his tires would go off at the end, and I just thought, you know, just use them towards the end and see if I'm close enough. To be honest, I kind of thought he would pull away to a point where I wouldn't even be able to challenge anyway. So, you know, I just waited patiently, and then, you know, as his lap time started to drop off there in those sort of last 3-4 laps, I just carried on using the push to pass, used 2 on 1 lap, and I got within a second of Adam Blocker on a different strategy. So I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest. It's just good to actually be able to see him in your line of sight when you cross the finish line. So yeah, it was good fun. To be honest, I think my strategy was possibly the best out there. I thought the blacks were the best race tyre, and that was my strategy all along, was to get rid of the alternates as quick as possible and see where it put me.
So it wasn't a reactionary pit stop to all of the crazy fighting at the start. It was a planned strategy. That's interesting to hear. Now, one final question is, you were a bit outspoken about your dislike of the previous tyre model, but this new tyre model, it's a lot of fun, and that's what's brought you back into the car, isn't it?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I didn't mind the tyre model too much before, but it was when we went to places like Road America and Spa, it just felt ridiculous. So no, I think they've finally got a really good tyre model in this car, and along with the new damage model as well, it's just so much fun driving this car, and I've tried to embrace the ovals, and I think I've learned a lot, having come from driving LMP1 for like the last 2 years, and finally I've broken away from Spa, Monza, Road America every week. So yeah. No, it's been really fun, and the community, as I say, they've been great.
As someone who's done that same transition, I know the feeling of finally saying, oh, I'm not racing at a classic European track again. I can enjoy them when I do go race there once in a while. Congratulations, Will, and hopefully the Tricky Triangle is nice to you and the Indy Alliance team.
Yes, yep, I'll definitely be there next week.
That's Will Lyons' second step of the podium, and from pole position, Adam Crane in a tooth and nail scrap with Adam Blocker, unable to hold on after lap 10, and from there involved in a fun fight with David Porcelli. And Adam, it was another pole position for you, but another race which didn't necessarily go your way. It just looked as though the race tire and the way that it was lasting over the course of the stint, just not holding up as nice as you would have wanted.
Yeah, that was a really fun race. Honestly, a little surprised to put it on pole, but it seems like the satellite racing cars tend to have really good short run pace, or at least decent short run pace, and then fall off a little too hard by the middle / end of the stint. So we'll have to do a little bit more work on figuring out how to keep the tire a little bit better. But yeah, it was a great race with Adam there. I hope everyone was entertained. Then a little bit of a battle with David and Danilo coming out of the pits. Honestly, I probably would have been able to stay ahead of Blocker at the end of the first stint, starting the second, but I got held up a little bit just in my outlap, so that cost me a little bit of time. But yeah, it was a fun race, and always great to be part of these race broadcasts.
And it must be nice as well, you're bouncing between the LMP2 and the IR18. Now, LMP2 is not always going your way, but at least you have some fun here in the IR18. I mean, that first stint of the race, were you ever... Blocker had said that sometimes he was a bit surprised by the aggressiveness of your defense, but were you then surprised by the aggressiveness of his lunge to get the move done finally after 9 laps of trying and trying and trying?
Yeah, no, I'll be honest. There were a couple sort of shows that he made where I thought, nah, there's not a chance. And then he made that move in the Cunningham, which was absolutely ridiculous. So mad props to him on that. I was completely not expecting that. But yeah, I mean, I knew from the practice earlier on before the race that his race pace was really good. So really, realistically speaking, the only way that I had a shot to really win the race, or at least have a really good finishing position, was to try to hold the field up a little bit, and then maybe some would pit early, and then maybe I could try to get some kind of undercut and sort of maintain position like that. So that was sort of the goal coming in, and it worked out almost to perfection. But I mean, you could see based on the finishing results how much further ahead Blocker was from sort of the rest of the field. That there was a massive pace gap. So the only way to have a shot at P1 or P2 is pretty much just to try to back everybody up and hold position as best I could.
Final question for you is your team is focusing a lot on the LMP2 car now. Are you getting much help, or is it basically just you working alone on this IR18?
For the road courses, it's pretty much just me. We do have some assistance on the oval side, but yeah, crazy busy schedule right now, having started sort of a new job and also trying to qualify for PESC, the Canadian version. And then my commitments with SEO and IVRA are pretty taxing, so I haven't been able to spend as much time in the IndyCar as I would have liked, and perhaps that's showing a little bit. But excited for Pocono next week. Hopefully, I'm able to run that, and then being able to have mandated compound changes for next season should bring a lot of interesting strategies to the IndyCar starting next season. So I'm excited for that too.
I was about to correct you that it's not PES, because I had to learn the hard way when I did the Porsche Great Britain one that it's the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. But you're right, because it's not just the GT3 Cup car, it's the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. Yeah, no, I'm glad that I did my checking there. Congratulations on this race, and well, best of luck for that qualification process.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Adam Crane, final step of the podium, and that will wrap up our podium post-race interviews. One more look at the schedule, 11 down, 1 to go, and all roads lead into the Pocono Mountains, where for 85 laps we'll go racing for one final time this season, Andrew, in what is going to be fun. We talked about it earlier. It's a track where drivers are challenged unlike any other challenge that this IRA team presents on the ovals.
Arjuna, through the course of 11 weeks so far, we've seen some absolutely amazing racing, whether it's been on road courses, on ovals, and I can think of no better place to stop this season than Pocono. It is just the quintessential IndyCar track in terms of you have to be able to drive it, you have to be able to set up the car well to work in all three corners. It is going to produce some fantastic racing. It's so wide. The draft is going to be so important. I can't wait to see what happens in 1 week's time.
And I'll follow that question up by also asking, when it comes to the in-car tools, how do you adapt to this track? Because you talk about the setup, but that's something else, right? You build the setup to have adjustability over the course of the race.
Yeah, you absolutely have to be in tune with what your car is doing and the little things that it's telling you, particularly as you're getting off the corners. It's so easy to lose the rear end of the car if you put in a little bit too much weight jacker, or to have the front end just wash out and slide into the wall, and then it's day done. So you really have to be in tune with your car, be one with the car, and listen to what it's telling you, and adjust your in-car tools, your anti-roll bars, your weight jackers perfectly lap after lap, and that's what it's going to take to get to victory lane in 1 week's time at Pocono.
What a race. What a race we saw today here from the bumps of the Sebring International Raceway. The IndyCar excitement continues, not in the virtual world, but of course the NTT IndyCar Series for 2022 kicks off from St. Petersburg in the Sunshine State this coming weekend. Will Alex Palou be able to defend his championship? Of course, Palou recently joined up with sim racing juggernauts at Team Redline. For now, though, it is time to wave you goodbye. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, we thank you for tuning in. 7 days from now, our season finale. Join us 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, same time, same place, to close off this 12-week spectacle that is delivered and then some. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye. For Andrew Kinsella joining me in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Congratulations to Adam Blocker, one hand on the championship as we run ourselves into the Pocono Mountains. We'll see you for one final time next weekend. For now, so long and goodbye.
want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down.